Alright everyone, Trump hasn't been in office for quite some time, but leftists are still fucking completely goddamn terrified by the dude. Like, it's funny, they keep trying to do the victory lap thing where they're like, well, we managed to reduce the number of shares on social media of Drumpfler's misinformation. So literally, like, you are bragging about billionaires censoring and influencing the political process. Well, they're not sending their best and brightest. These aren't the liberals that I knew from the 2000s that were anti-war and had problems with it. These aren't the Occupy liberals, that's for sure. And they still have nightmares about this dude. Link in the description, archived, of course, like the Salon article. Biden is so boring, number one, and Trump has them so goddamn rankled, number two, that months and months later, despite him supposedly disappearing, they're still talking about him on a constant basis. It's funny because while they're trying to starve Trump of oxygen by not letting him speak, they can't stop speaking about him. And even if they're covering him negatively, he's still in the news. It's 2-1 Trump-Biden anyway with news coverage. Like, if you look at the front page of news sites, half the time it's Trump. It's not the sitting Hong Kong, the asterisk administration's commander-in-chief. It's Trump, the former president. Again, honk honk. It's hilarious to watch this. The Trump derangement syndrome, it's like heroin. And the thing is, Trump actually, inadvertently, I think, in part, did this to them. This was inflicted by Trump himself. By doing the bravado, huge, mimetic sort of thing, he got these people addicted to tabloid heroin, which is the term that I gave to, like, the propaganda that they were forced to spew out about Trump. Because they wanted to defeat him, and they got more and more hyperbolic. And what happened is the purity spiraled. They kept trying to one-up one another because they want clickbait. They want those clicks because it's money. They want more attention. And so they had to keep one-upping each other about Trump. You saw this with political cartoons. At first, Trump was he was just cast off as sort of a bore, a tubby bore. And by the end there, you have cartoons depicting him as basically a big round baby shitting and pissing everywhere, like the most infantile sort of humor you could call it. The devolution of everything humorous and political commentary, at least from the lamestream, was palpable. And now they're trying to dig themselves back out, but they just can't do it. They just can't stop talking about Trump. Can you imagine when Trump keels over? It'll be the most covered funeral in U.S. presidential history. They won't be able to stop talking about it. A national debate will rage on that day. Well, can we forgive Trump for all of his indiscretions and sins? And people, Geraldo will be there probably. Well, I don't want to speak badly about Donald Trump, but... And then he'll go off on a spiel about how bad he is. Geraldo's a snake. He's the ultimate fence sitter. He's got that fence post right up his fucking ass, by the way. Watch it. He's a total locale. Watch the cringe that is Geraldo Rivera. Anytime that he's on TV or on a live stream or anytime that he tweets, you'll have fun. Trust me. These people are nuts. They have literal nightmares. They have night terrors about Donald Trump, and they're terrified that he's going to come back. They're terrified he's going to run again. It's going to be real difficult to justify keeping banned the former president when he's also a candidate for the presidency. It would begin to look a little bit obvious what was happening. It would begin to look a little bit strange to people if Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey and Sundar Pichai and so forth said, well, no, but Trump did a thing years ago. We're not going to let him speak even though he's the Republican nominee for the presidency. Oh, we're not going to do that. Meanwhile, by then, the Democrats will probably have started a war and killed 1 million people, so it's going to be difficult. Also, they don't want him speaking out right now because he's been vindicated with regards to the COVID response. He was Operation Warp Speed. 2 of the more successful, more used vaccines were the result of that. They were fast-tracked because of that research, as opposed to us needing to use the Moscow variant. Can you imagine that? If Trump had said, oh, well, fuck you, we'll just buy it from Russia, and that people would have lost their collective minds, rightfully so. He was right. He gets to frame, I did the Afghanistan withdrawal. Keep in mind, by September, supposedly, we'll finally be leaving Afghanistan. Better late than never. The Taliban keeps bombing things because we didn't stick to the original schedule, which means Afghanistan will crumble afterwards. But while they'll try to blame Orange Man for that, he has a few counters for it. It's interesting we've gotten to the point in society where so-called liberal individuals are fine with the idea of a person being able to be wall-to-wall criticized by billionaires and then not be able to launch a response. Why do you think they're so worried about him going on a speaking tour with Bill O'Reilly right now? They're terrified. He's going back into the limelight. His short-lived blog, it was funny because they were all basically urinating all over themselves with glee because the blog only lasted a couple weeks. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, do you think that that was meant to be a long-term proposal? Trump should buy into alt-tech, by the way. He should get on Gab. He should get on Parler. He should be using Rumble and shit like this. That would lend a huge amount of power to the new tech sites if he were to do this. He's capable of getting his message out. Instead, he's sort of slow-walking it at the moment. It actually is slightly frustrating because you've got this bombastic, high-energy dude, and he's slow-walking it. It's slightly uncharacteristic. I think he knows what happened during the fortifying of the last election, and it peeves him. Then now's the time to fight back. Yeah, by the way, if a Democrat uses that term, it's okay. It seems that anytime someone else uses it, it's like a call to violence or something. You're not allowed to use Maxine Waters language unless you have a D after your name. I love watching them shit and piss at the same time, though. It's funny because they try to ridicule him as being basically a less intelligent version of like Goebbels or something. So he's unintelligent, infantile, poops and peas and stuff that's common in political cartoons these days as a substitute for actual satire, by the way. And on the other end, he's a real career criminal, a cutthroat, a cunning man who's trying to become a dictator. It's very, very funny because I believe that one of the main arguments of fascists listed by, I can't remember the name of that weird socialist dude, actually is that you would have that sort of irreconcilable two-pronged attack, where your opponent is both inept, dumb, stupid, and weak, but at the same time very cunning and dangerous. Pretty sure that was one of the signs of fascism. Interesting. I think all of them are there when you look at legacy media coverage these days. That's about all. Peace out.